lot of shares. This year, I'll be running for city council, and I want to be able to spend money in the city where I was born and raised, and I want to share the gratitude that was shared with me. And I love my city, I love my state, I love my country, and I don't see myself doing or putting as much work in another city. When you learn how to invest your money, you learn how to invest your time. And investing your time is just as much as investing money, and it should be. I learned how to invest from a gentleman. I followed him. I've read him. His name is I'm trying to think of his name. Warren Buffett. And the way he did it was, he didn't touch any of his money until the right time. He sat back, he let all his money accumulate into his companies and businesses, and he didn't extract any money from them. And business is second nature. It has to be second nature to those that say they're about business. And if I wasn't about business, I wouldn't say anything about that. Thank you. Good evening.
Is there anybody else for public comment? We're going to close public comment. We're going to go into executive session. We're going to go ahead and move ourselves from this. We'll go into Bill's office. You guys can stay in here. That way you don't have to be out in the heat. We're going to conference with legal counsel regarding government code subsection 5495 6.9 B1 case, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation. And item 2 will be conference with labor negotiator, government code subsection 54957.6, agency designated representative Bill Ziegler, city manager, and Mario Zamora, city attorney. Employee organization, local SIU for miscellaneous employee group. So we're going to go ahead and head on over there and see you guys.
It's working now. This is back up.
Go back and do the regular session. Martin?
We have nothing to report out on either item.
Okay. Item number 2, council reports. Councilman Velasquez.
Vice Mayor, did you get that text I sent you? There were 3 people in the audience who missed public comment. Oh, sorry. I sent you notes.
I'll get it.
I would postpone my report until we have public comment again.
Okay. We'll open up public comment real quick and hear.
Hi, my name is Irene Gutierrez, and I was born and raised here in Lindsay. And I wanted to come to this meeting and ask because we've been hearing that there's a new clinic coming to Lindsay, Omni Healthcare Centers. And we were just wondering, the grant that they receive, is that going to help the city of Lindsay? Is that going to benefit our patients? I work at a clinic here in town as well. So I just wanted to get a little bit more feedback on this clinic coming to town.
I'm not sure I understood. What are you asking? You want to know what's happening with Omni? Is that your
Yeah.
question?
Mm-hmm.
If I can get your information, they can't respond to you, but I can talk to you about it. We can set up a
Okay.
meeting or something like that.
Oh, okay, absolutely, that'd be,
Okay. She'll
okay.
get your information and I'd be happy to meet with you.
Okay, all right, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to council reports.
Oh.
Councilman Velasquez.
Is there more?
Oh, I think so.
Oh,
That was it.
Oh, okay.
I think they're all three together.
I had nothing to report, thanks.
Councilman Watson.
Not at this time.
Well, I thought I had nothing, but I actually do. Okay. I just want to say, I know Bill mentioned it in our weekend report, but I was on K-TIP last Thursday at 7:35. Nerve-wracking, but it was actually pretty cool. It was short, and it was for being my first session, I think it went well. So thank you to Maria for sending me the audio on it. So that was really cool.
They told you you're doing it every time now.
No.
You're doing great.
We're
You
taking
did
turns.
so well, we're just gonna assign you.
And the nice thing is, it was over the phone.
Mhm.
So I thought I had to go in person. I was like, oh, freaking out because I was out of town, but it worked out because I just called in. The second thing was, I was actually out of town. I was in Pismo, and I went to the San Luis Obispo Farmers Market that they hold on Thursday night, which was nice to see because I usually don't make time to go to other farmers market, but it was nice. I was able to compare it to what we have here in town, and it's very similar. So that was nice. The environment, tons of food. I mean, very similar to what we have here. So I was just happy to see that we have someone here, some of the same services here for our community. So that was nice to see. And then third, I was in Clovis this hot afternoon. I just got back a little while ago, and I was there with my son as he was selected by PDP with a player development program to go out there with scouts from up in the Bay Area. But the parents that were there with their children were complaining that they were having this training in the middle of the day, because it was 1 to 3 in Clovis, the hottest part of the day, and it was in a not very nice park in Clovis. And they were the scout that came from the Bay Area was saying that they were having such a hard time getting anywhere to hold their training, and it just kind of made me excited because with our new soccer park coming in, I can see so many of those events happening here locally. So I just wanted to bring that, in my report because I'm excited about what the future holds for us with the soccer park that's underway. So that's it. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, if I can add to your comment. Virginia, remember when we went to St. Louis to go talk about the farmers market when it first came up? We toured over there and to see how they did it so we could model it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of,
Very similar.
yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
I don't have anything. We'll move on to item 4, consent calendar. Item number.
Staff report?
Staff report, sorry. That's what I wanted.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The plan is to outsource dispatch starting on August the 1st. I think that would be tomorrow. The counter, the window in PD will still be staffed. Business should not be disrupted on this end. Residents can still go and speak with someone if they need to. Police will still be there. All those things will happen. Just the 911 calls will be passed on through the county. And they do it during the night and on the weekends now without any disruption in service, and so we shouldn't miss a beat with that. Fiesta Insurance is opening at the shopping center. They've also applied to be a DMV satellite office. Once approved, minor DMV items could be handled there, so that's
Wow.
kind of exciting.
It's huge.
And we've all seen the construction that the Burger King is undergoing. They're doing extensive remodel on the outside, dining area renovation, new flooring and wall coverings in the restrooms, new exterior treatments. About a $150,000 project. We'd anticipate maybe another 45 days, between a month and 45 days, and we should see them back open again, and we can have it our way. Utility systems, the water system The water treatment plant volume's at 1350 gallons per minute, 1350. We are going to even continue ramping that up. We were in below 900 for quite a while. Remember, we've repaired those filter banks, and so we are increasing the throughput from the water we're pumping out of the canal. We're at the point now where we have to start boosting the water coming out of the canal. We fired up our boost pump for the first time in how long, Mike? How many years? 11 years, and the boost pump needs some repair. We've got a loaner out there right now. It's a 25-horse boost pump. But this is a good situation where we need to move that water out of the canal. It's allocated to us. We want to use as much of that allocated water as we can, as opposed to the stuff that we're pumping out of the ground for a whole lot of reasons, Sigma and other reasons. And so Mike and his team are doing wonderful things out there, and we're moving forward, but we're cranking up that output. So that's really good. The Well 15 contact time project. Crews are out there on site. The concrete pad for the small structure is being prepped, and we should see activities happening out there by the Hilarities Dairy. Soccer park conversion. The irrigation system is near complete. Final adjustments are underway to the sprinklers. So if we get complaints about excessive water, just please know we're trying to get the seed. That'll be the next step to germinate so that it can grow.
Yeah, I think they were laying the seed today.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good deal. We've been working with Climate Tech. I'm going to email you a PowerPoint that they shared with staff last week. It shows their initial assessment of what they've seen here. They want to come in August and do a detailed presentation to council, but this will just kind of whet your appetite as to what they're looking at for us right now. You see some painting happening out there, limit lines on streets, where you stop before a stop sign, some of the things in school districts. Mike's staff are out there. We're doing crosswalks, curbs, that sort of thing right now. The Health Advisory Committee meeting, there's one slated for August the 13th at 5:15. More information will be forthcoming. We know that it's been a while. Lisa's working on that, and I know Maria's trying to give her a hand and coordinate that. And for those of you that are on that, that information will be coming out. I'll move on to aquatics. Monday through Saturday, public swim, 12 to 4. It's going to end on August the 7th. What's it cost, you ask? $2. Just $2. There's currently a promotion happening, dollar day Fridays for public swim. So for $1 between 12 and 5 on Friday, you can swim just for $1. She's got night swim happening July 31st, August 1st, 2nd, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Final summer session, number 4 for summer swim lessons began this week. She's doing fall promotions for pool parties, lap swimming. She's going to add adult swim lessons and continue with the youth swim lessons during the fall months. And she's also looking at different sorts of activity that I'm kind of excited about, kayaking, scuba diving, paddleboard classes, just where you can come and get those skills. And then when you go out to Morro Bay, you can be a pro. Summer Night Lights, lots of good things have been happening. We had late skate and free public swim. That was on the 13th of July. We had about 250 attendees, so that's a popular program. The next one's going to be on Thursday, August the 9th. That'll be the color run, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. There'll be a fun run, kids Zumba, glow jewelry, remote broadcast on a radio, free food, and tons of other great things are going on out there. And that's my report.
There you go. Item number 4, consent calendar. Item number 1, city council meeting minutes for July 10th, 2018. Item number 2, warrant list for July 24th, 2018. Salary schedule matrix for July 1st, 2018. Replace advances to the general fund from Fund 263 Transportation with advances from various locally controlled funds. Resolution 1838. Have a minute order.
Well, I just wanted to point out that, I know it's not a big deal, but there's a couple of typos and names on the minutes. I don't know. So, I caught last name for Virginia, and then it's not spelled correctly. And then the last one, if it's a person I'm thinking, that's probably his last name. The person, if it's the gentleman that has come a couple times, because I wasn't here, Salvador Segura is his name.
Right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out, those typos there. And with that said, I move for approval.
As amended.
As amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 5, resolution 1837, by Mario.
So this was, this is the landscape and lighting assessments that we continued from last time. And Mike and I had talked, and so up on the screen are some older documents, and these relate to the two questions that we had, which was the district itself, and particularly, this is Sierra Vista only, right? Yeah, so the question from Mr. Alcantara was on his district, so this is only focused on that. So was the district formed correctly and properly to begin with? And then the other question was, are the assessments on the district being imposed correctly? And so there's a couple things that we look at, and he brought some material in. His material only related to the initial formation of the district. And so looking back at the documents, you have this document, which is from 2005. It's a resolution, and it's basically approval of the subdivision. And so this is going from 4 lots into 19 lots for development in the Sierra Vista. Inside here in paragraph 27, it talks about one of the requirements being that the developer will have to form a landscape and lighting assessment district. And so this is from 2005, and that's just a city document. So that is the first indication that, hey, there's going to be a landscape and lighting district assigned to these homes. So once we get past that, we have the next set of documents, which are from 2007. And
27, Mike.
27. Right, that was the.
Yeah, so that's the section that talks about that, hey, we're going to let you subdivide this property, but here's all the conditions, and out of the 30 conditions-ish, number 27 is a landscape that down the road we're going to form this district. Can you scroll down a little bit more, Mike, to the next set of documents? Because the next set of documents really is what happened. So you have this memo here from Mike to Mr. Townsend, and this is the actual formation of the district. There's a resolution that follows this, but this is in 2007. So here's your engineer's report, which we talked about last time. And so the engineer's report, if you in the second to bottom line, you'll see that the assessment per lot per year is $502.84, and that's what excuse me, that's where we're at now. So if we know that the district was formed properly, and we know that the original assessment was $502.84, that's the ceiling for what we can charge without having to go out and vote again. And so there was a vote the first time, and it was easy because the person who voted was a property owner. And at the time, it was one property owner who owned all of these things because it was the developer. And so he says, and that's in the documents also further down, so we have that document as well. So we know that the district was formed. The Mr. I think Landers, right? Right. He was the one who signed off on it. And all these those 19 properties were all assessed up to $502.84. So as long as we don't exceed that, that has been done in the past. That was done in 2007 and completed in 2007. So there's no other votes for us to handle. The district, according to the records, was formed properly. The assessment was formed properly. There was an engineer's report that went along with it that told us this is the maximum amount that you need to do in order to maintain this district. And so that's where we are. If there's no change being proposed for this district in this year's change, because it is the max, because we're trying to complete all these projects at once and as soon as possible. But I don't know if you have anything to add, Mike, but I think that's pretty much it. So those were the questions that Mr. Alcantara had, which was, hey, we didn't get to vote on this. Well, you didn't, because you bought a house that the property owner at the time had already voted on it and agreed to it. And everybody in that district would have done the same. And if they sell the house and move, it's going to carry on with the new owner. They're going to have to pay that assessment. So as long as we don't exceed that, there's no further vote on their part that they have to go through. And that goes for any of the districts. This is just the example, but that's how that works.
Can I ask some questions? So, so has this information been shared with Mr. Alcantara?
It has
Since he
not.
had these
Not
questions?
yet,
Oh, okay.
but we will. He actually emailed us today and called, said, what's the status?
Okay.
And Mario hadn't reported yet,
Okay.
and you hadn't decided yet.
Yeah, I can't, I can't expect him to be here, but we'll respond to him by email and let him know.
And then the other thing is, because I live in a district too, and I was never told that I was in a district and I was gonna pay, whatever amount. So ultimately, whose responsibility is to mention like, hey, by the way, you live in a district and you're gonna end up paying this much more, so FYI, instead of getting the surprise letter, it's like, what?
So I'll tell you the bad news. The bad news is you did get told. The even worse news is that it was in your escrow documents, and it was about, one page in a stack of 500, and you're signing and signing and signing, and because in the title report itself, it would say, hey, you're in this district, you have these fees that you're going to have to pay extra. And so somebody from the city is not going to tell you, I doubt your realtor is even going to especially point that out. But in your escrow documents, and the same with everybody. I mean, it's a stack of, it's a good 200 pieces of paper. And you're going through and signing, and it's in that stack.
And then just the last thing I was going to mention, I think the frustration is, again, I wasn't here at the last meeting where these questions came up, but in the previous one, and then just personally, the frustration is that we see no improvement in the whatever we're supposed to be paying for. So I think that's where the frustration comes from, because if we saw that it was being kept up, that it looked nice, it's like, okay, this is where my money's going. As opposed to like, okay, I'm paying this money, but what's being done? There's dead shrubs. It looks ugly, So I just wanted to bring that up too, because again, I do live in a district area, and I have those frustrations as well. So, okay.
Mike, do you want to address that at all? I mean, I don't.
I would just add that staff has been directed of your concerns about what you're seeing out there. We want to ensure that the sprinklers are being periodically checked, and so that we don't have geysers when they're running, and I think Mike has a plan to ensure that that's happening. You'd think it'd be a no-brainer, but we are outsourcing those. We don't have city staff doing that, and part of the contract, it should be covered. Sometimes we don't hear about it in a timely fashion until someone's kind of up to here. We want to do a better job with that.
So the maintenance is paid for by the district. If there are improvements proposed, the district has to pay those costs. Simple replacement of plants, that's built into the general maintenance. Well, we want to totally renovate an area. That's going to, as long as we don't exceed the initial cost of the district, then it can happen. But the minute we exceed that, then all of a sudden we've changed the format. And for the most part, every district, Sierra Vista is a little unique because it was never completed, but every district is just about maintaining what's there. And if it dies, yeah, it can be replaced. But let's change out turf for colored rock or something. That's not in the budget. It can be proposed by the people who live in the district. Any significant change can happen. Everybody agrees to it. Everybody agrees to that cost. So that it's a little challenging to say, we want to make these changes. One exception in a couple of the districts is if a car runs through a block wall. We're not going to ask the property owners, would you like your wall fixed? It's going to get fixed. But that part is that cost of repair gets carried to the next year's assessment. So that's about the only exception where if there's an accident or if there's damage. And we're going to take care of it.
That gets put on the engineer's report?
It would on the current year's report, any extra work that happened, like a block wall repair, that gets put on the engineer's report. And then carried to the proposed next year.
And that's if the people in the district want to see an improvement and they're interested in having an assessment, I mean, that's a pretty painless process as far as we're concerned. And so if there's interest in doing that, that certainly can happen.
Swapping out turf with drought-tolerant things, for example, that's possible, but it need to be resident-driven from that district.
Any other questions?
No.
Is a roll call, Maria?
Oh, it's a resolution. Need motion? I move that we approve resolution number 1837, a resolution of the City Council of City of Lindsay ordering the continued maintenance of landscaping and lighting maintenance districts and confirming the engineer's report and assessment for the 2018-2019 fiscal year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call roll, Maria.
Yes. Councilmember Velasquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Councilmember Cortez,
Aye.
and Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Number 6 is a public hearing, ordinance number 568 by Brian Sponhurst.
Thank you, Council. Let me just take a second to get to the right staff report here. Okie dokie. So ordinance 568, this is essentially just a housekeeping item that staff would like to present to Council. It's regarding political campaign signs and how we address those in our code. Essentially, what we want to do is remove any language that would be a hindrance to free speech, and we just want to maintain language that applies to state-related items regarding, if there's signage on a corner that can potentially block intersection view and try to make a turn, signage that's in the public right-of-way that shouldn't be there, those type of items. But really, it's just about making sure we're in conformance with state laws and requirements and giving everybody the opportunity for exercise their free speech rights.
Okay. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is there any proponents for this ordinance? Anybody for it?
Yes. Good evening, my name is Eric Sinclair, and then for this ordinance number 568. Thank you very much.
Any opponents? Is there any questions, Council?
No.
What action would you like to take?
Is this the first reading?
The first reading.
I propose that the council declare the first reading of ordinance number 568, an ordinance of the City Council of City of Lindsay amending sections 18.14.040.B.16 and 18.14.040.B.12.bi of the Lindsay Municipal Code pertaining to political campaign signs and sign permit requirement restrictions, and waive the reading of the ordinance in full.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Velasquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Cortez,
Aye.
Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Aye.
Passes.
Passes 4-0. Item number 7, public hearing, ordinance number 569, first reading by Brian Sponhurst.
Thank you, Council. This item, again, is some housekeeping in regards to our upcoming housing element update. We're taking a look at some definitions relating to how we define different types of housing. It's basically, again, just meant to be more conforming to state laws and to kind of help open the door for different types of housing here in Lindsay and not be as restrictive. For the most part, we're just looking at how we define dwelling, multifamily dwellings, single-family dwellings, and the other items were pertaining to supportive housing, transitional housing, and how we look at those as well here in Lindsay. So if council has any questions, I'd be happy to go in greater detail regarding that, but essentially it's just meant to kind of help open the door for a variety of housing here in Lindsay.
Is this, I have a question. Does this have anything about tiny homes or tiny houses, which seems to be kind of the bad thing around?
It does not. We are looking in the future to look at accessory dwelling units and how we address those types of housing here in Lindsay as well. That'll be a future item, though. We're still working on the language for that and how we address that. If council has any input on a certain direction, we'd be happy to include it as we develop that language. Some cities have been very open and embraced tiny homes, and others have kind of wanted to keep a limit on the minimum square footage. At the end of the day, I believe we have a little bit of leeway on what we want to adopt. But at the end of the day, any type of housing in Lindsay that we can help add to our stock would help alleviate some of our overcrowding issues.
So somebody could put in a tiny house right now on that lot, or is there a lot requirement?
Currently, right now, in a single-family zoned property, we have a maximum square footage for accessory dwelling unit of 800 square feet. So anything below that technically qualifies as long as you meet lot coverage and setback requirements.
That's as a second dwelling, right?
As a second dwelling, yes. There are, of course, other requirements such as, the owner has to be occupying at least one of those dwelling units and other items like that. But for the most part, we just have a cap. We don't have a minimum set in place.
I know some cities are working on doing tiny home neighborhoods, what they do for homeless or trying to get people back on track and having housing for that. And so that's the reason I was bringing it up. If somebody wanted to create a tiny home neighborhood, per se, they want to put any restrictions to that.
Yeah, I want to say, I think Clovis did some legwork in putting together a set of floor plans available to the public to help alleviate the costs to them, and they don't have to worry about developing plans and engineering. It's just basically you borrow one of these plans, and as long as you meet lot coverage and setback requirements, you just pull a building permit essentially. So there are programs like that out there where cities are taking the lead and wanting to do more to add housing stock.
Anything else? No. Go ahead and open the public comment. Public hearing. Any proponents for this item? Opponents? Getting back to the council. Any more questions, council? What action would you like to take?
So I propose that the council declare the first reading of ordinance number 569, an ordinance of the city council of the city of Lindsay amending section 18.24.030 of the Lindsay Municipal Code pertaining to zoning ordinance definitions and waive the reading of the ordinance in full.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Cortez,
Aye.
Councilmember Velasquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Item number 8, Mario. I have a conflict with that.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and read it? Or
Who's the next senior council person?
I'm the youngest one.
you do?
Okay, I guess that would be me.
Yes.
Okay, so this is
You're
actually,
way senior.
yeah,
We go by hair color,
yeah, really.
so everybody knows.
Well, just for the record, I didn't mean oldest. I meant the person with the most.
Oh, okay,
Council.
never mind.
Thank you for thank you for clearing that up for me. So number 8, action item, the Cheetos Asadero. Request a minute order approval of a minor revision to a previously approved site plan, and Brian Sponhurst will detail that for us.
Thank you, Councilman. So this item is a request to build a shade structure at Cheetos Asadero at 380B West Hermosa Street. It'll be approximately 280 square feet in size. Essentially, due to the zoning of the property, this is a formality required that's driven by a building permit request. And that zoning really has some limitations on how we develop it. And so basically it wants to bring any changes before council. And this is a very minor change, however, it does require council's approval to move forward. So with that, I'll jump into the site plan here. so we can get a look at, this is what's existing there, the aerial view. Here's a cheap, no, thank you. Here is the main building here with the fire pit off to the northeast. And he has some temporary shade structures in place over some seating areas for the customers to enjoy their meals. What he would like to do is clean that up to look a little more presentable and professional, and really just include a really nice looking steel-based shade structure for his customers there. This also adds several safety improvements. If there's a large gust of wind, it can take up some of those umbrellas. This steel structure is going to remain rock solid. So really it's just all around making it more professional, more presentable. And with that, be happy to answer any questions council has and go from there.
I mean, this is just pretty much a standard tenant improvement, right? Yeah.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wasn't sure if we needed a roll call on that.
Congratulations. Your son?
Yeah. Thanks for your support.
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna dye my hair so it's darker than yours.
What's that? Yeah.
Sorry, man. Couldn't do it.
Can do. Item number 9, acceptance of grant deeds by Mike Camarena.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. These grant deeds are being presented tonight for Council's acceptance. This is the property that's necessary in the actually 5 areas of the roundabout that are affected. All property owners are in agreement. They've signed the grant deed. Lindsay Unified School District and Self-Help Enterprises agreed to waive what appraisal value was presented as part of the process, and then the other 3 property owners, we negotiated with them, and they accepted the values, and also our negotiation was reviewing with Mario what an acceptable counteroffer would have been. So city attorney's been involved with this the entire time, and with that, that's the request, is that council approve the grant deeds for the 5 areas that have to answer any questions.
Any questions, council?
No.
What action would you like to take?
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 10, action item, award contract engineer for Hermosa Street, Westwood Avenue Roundabout Project. Mike Camarena.
Mayor Pro Tem, could I please request a 5-minute recess for staff to discuss something?
Sure.
Thank you.
Move on to item number 10, award of contract engineering of Hermosa Street, Westwood Avenue Roundabout Project. Mike Camarena.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On July 25th, the city received bids for the Hermosa Westwood Roundabout. The bids are on the screen there. 3 bidders were submitted. 3 bids were submitted. Dodd Construction from Bakersfield, Mac General Engineering, Porterville and Bush Engineering from Visalia. Low bidder, Dodd Engineering, 1.586, 314.30. There were some items discovered during the abstract and also check of each of the license of the contractors. They're noted in the agenda. Couple of mathematical errors from Bush Engineering. They are identified on the abstract that I handed you this evening. The abstract also has the correct title on it. Mathematical errors did not change the status of Bush Engineering. They still remain the 3rd bidder as far as dollar value. Dodd Construction, what was found was that the electrical subcontractor that was identified, his Department of Industrial Relations license had just expired. And so with that, he is not qualified to do the job. But the California Public Contract Code allows substitutions, and this qualifies for a substitution. And today, 2:15 today, we received a demand to reconsider from the second low bidder that a portion of the project, and on the abstract, and I know it's very small, I apologize for that, but item number 34, the type 2 slurry is identified as specialty work, and that you must hold a particular license to do this work. Where we are today is that we would have to double check the DOD license if it is valid for, I believe it's a C12 slurry seal contractor's license. But the value of line item 34, the estimate, the opinion of probable cause was 8 tons of material, and the installed price by DOD was $60 a ton. I'm sorry, $400 a ton, for a total of $3,200 on contract. And so what staff would like to do is research whether a specialty license is required. If it is and DOT is not qualified, we will remove this item from the contract. The slurry seal is kind of a painting process where it's put on asphalt as a rejuvenating or a protection layer. There's really no structural value whatsoever to it. What council could be considered to do is to add it as portion of an overall citywide slurry seal project next spring as part of our street improvement program. And so if DOT is not qualified and if DOT is required to have a specialty license, we can remove that $3,200 line item and continue with it. But staff is going to have to research exactly what license is required, if it's a specialty license, if DOT is qualified, and then make that decision, and we brief council on that as well.
If I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Well, I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, sorry. So if we remove that, I mean, we're removing, their bid goes down by $3,200, right? But we're also, the other bids go decreasing.
Correct.
So MAC decreases by almost 19,000 and then 16 for Bush, but Bush engineering seems to be like way out of it.
Right, so if you do the math and remove about 19,000 from the MAC bid, he would still be at about 1.8 million. So he would still be the second bidder by removing that line item. And same with Bush, they would still be in the third position.
And item, line number 18, you have it in red for, that's for Bush, never mind. So that's a mathematical error?
That is one of the two mathematical errors. That's why they're highlighted in red.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was right.
Any other questions?
What action would you like to take? What was it? Minute order.
Yeah, move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
do we have to specifically say, Todd, or
Is that a roll call?
are we awarding it?
It's a minute order, but as
Based
Okay,
on recommendation.
based on the recommendation.
okay,
Based on the recommendation, will be fine.
okay.
Number 10 is an action item, award contract engineers for Hermosa Street, Westwood Avenue Roundabout project. Already do that?
Yeah,
11, I'm sorry. Reject bids for Hermosa Street, Westwood Avenue Roundabout landscape project. Mike Camarena.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So on the same day, we received 2 bids for the landscaping portion of the Hermosa roundabout. The engineer's estimate or opinion of probable cost, $71,500. Both bids significantly higher than what was estimated. And so at this point in time, the recommendation is to reject these 2 bids, and there are opportunities in the future. We can rebid it. The time frame on the landscaping is that they're not going to be coming in until maybe the 3rd month of the project. And so it could be towards the end of the year that the landscaping would be even considered to be installed by a contractor. Our bidding process would take about 3 to 4 weeks to get the process done, bring back to council for a recommendation. But there are certainly some options that are available to council. Part of the roundabout contract, the construction of the roundabout, is to put in the groundwork and the sleeves for the irrigation for the landscape. So all that work is done as part of the roundabout. Landscape contractor comes in behind and does all the surface. So there's going to be opportunity for us to rebid if that's council's direction. We have here, this is the area of landscaping. Another option to consider with a bid schedule that was developed for the landscaping is just to reduce the amount of plants that were identified. So essentially, we took this plan here that was developed by Omni's landscape architect, and we broke it down to bid schedule. And it was bid by the plant numbers, and I think you can barely see those numbers at the top, the plant schedule. Those are the numbers that were bid, so we can reduce those by 25%, by 50%. We can look at the different treatment, which we did talk to council about the treatment of what is actually in the roundabout. There's going to be rock itself, some rock mulch, and then decomposed granite. There are all kinds of options, and we probably realistically have about 60 days to look at this project again and see what direction council wants to go. But the recommendation tonight is the process is we either accept or reject, and the recommendation is to reject.
Any questions?
Yeah. Mike, the difference is so substantial that it seems like the 71,000 was maybe, are we sure the 71,000 wasn't wrong? I mean, how do we, I mean, you're talking about,
Well, with
$100,000 difference.
we expected more bidders, and we actually had a contractor that was doing work here in town for us. His answer was, I have too many school projects going. I'm too busy. And so it could be that the time of year is just not
So then you
right.
think they're bidding high, or they're submitting a bid so high that,
If they get it, they make money, or make a lot of money.
Go back to the
Well,
Staff feels there's nothing to be lost in delaying this a
Yeah.
little bit, and we'll come back
Yeah.
to you with several recommendations and see what you want to do. One of the things you could say is you have a budget of $71,000. What can you do for $71,000? By the way, this was the concept. There are any number of things we can do there.
That's what we ended up doing at the soccer park, is a design build contract, where we identified, here's the money we have, what can we get done with this money? And it could be the same concept here, is just instead of a project that is clearly identified, we just do a design.
I move for
we reject.
the rejection of the bids, the landscaping bids for the roundabout.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 12, action item, soccer park fence, Sequoia Avenue, and equipment study session, selecting of fencing. Right, my camera now.
Thank you, Mayor. So part of well, actually, one of the last parts of the soccer park along Sequoia Avenue, the number is about 600 lineal feet, installing a fence. And we bid out to some local contractors a couple of different types of fence material, standard 8-foot tall fence. That's just the regular material that you see, it's the regular fabric that you see. And then an 8-foot tall vinyl coated fence. But the fence that's on Tulare Road is green, but it's not vinyl coated. I don't remember how it was painted green, whether we ordered it as a fabric or
It
whether
came that color.
it came as a fabric. Okay, so that may be an option, that instead of doing just a standard metal type color with the material, is looking at the $13,000 bid versus the $18,000 bid from Spence Fence. What options can be created with the fence that goes along Sequoia. What is included in the bids are 2 4-foot wide passage gates, so they can be controlled, people can come and go. And one, I believe it's a 12-foot wide equipment gate, so we can get different types of equipment in and out of there. And that's just for access control. That's a future discussion of where we want people to go in and out of the soccer park and at what different events. Part of the discussion, though, understanding that the dollars to pay for this fencing material would have to come from a source other than the HRPP source. That money's been expended on the soccer park and the renovation of the clubhouse. And so the money would come from essentially parks, recreation funds. And so those are not nearly as plentiful as what we had to deal with to build the soccer park. So a decision made tonight would impact our existing funds in whatever direction council chooses with regard to the fence. We can go on to the study session item if you want to, or if you want to talk about the fence in particular.
You want to start with the fence and then go on to?
Yeah. So 2 options with the fence. We have the low bidder Spence fence, $13,000 to install standard fence. We can ask if there's color options with that and go with the green, or go with the vinyl coated, or any other direction that council wants staff to explore.
When we say standard fence, we're talking about the chain link fence
Chain
like
link,
it is. And the standard fence is gray. Is that
Just
what
galvanized.
galvanized, whatever. It's gray. But,
Personally, I'd like to see the green at least surrounding the whole area.
right. The other thing that I've been talking about, how far away that corner, the northwest corner is from the bathrooms. And at some point, somebody's going to come up with the idea that we're going to need to bring in porta potties possibly over there in that corner, some part on the west side or west north of that property. And so, having the ability to have a gate that's big enough where somebody can bring one in possibly. And I mean, you're going to come in through the street, not going to be coming through. So I think that we need to think about that. Having, you said something about equipment,
There's an equipment that's included.
and making sure that that's, could handle that.
Right.
I mean, I think that would be something we need to. Yeah, but I'm gonna leave it up to the soccer field, people that voted for the soccer field in the first place to do that. But
It's probably an extra 20 feet of fencing if that.
it changes the gate, yeah. I mean, it changes the fencing to gate area, right?
I mean, wouldn't, the 12-foot fence would accommodate a truck.
Yes.
Yes.
Standard travel lane on a road is anywhere from 10 feet to 12 feet, 14 feet wide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can make sure that the equipment can get in.
Just
and out
make
of
it pretty.
Yeah. So, so should we wait to hear back from whatever fence vendor about the color coded?
Well, I know it comes in green. I mean,
Oh,
it's not a,
okay, cool.
So if there's any change in price, then we can bring it back.
Okay.
Or a significant change.
significant.
Yeah. Very good.
Are we going to put fence around any of the other areas that need, there's some areas that don't have any at all yet, right? Or portions of it?
Yes.
I want to say there's a few.
The only unrestricted access is near the clubhouse. So there's a chain link fence now that separates the city park from the soccer park. There's the golf netting, and then there's a very short wrought iron fence that separates Sequoia Villas from the soccer park. You can get around that relatively easily. But there is no fence that goes from the parking lot into the clubhouse. And so we've met out there last week to look at what kind of access restriction should be considered. And it's less than 10 feet to limit access. Doesn't mean people aren't going to jump the fence.
Right.
But just limit access to control points that we want.
Can we put that in the same bid, or do we got to?
Well, the difference is there's wrought iron that connects the parking lot, so really the first tee box. So we could put chain link there, but it's not the same material that's there. And again, it's 10 feet wide. That's something that city staff will probably do relatively. So
Will it look better wrought iron at that point?
that's what's there. That's what's there.
So the questions we had, when this came up, when we put it on the agenda, we had concerns about potential funding for this. Staff would like to suggest that we have a pending property sale in the middle of August, not guaranteed yet, but it should be in the neighborhood to cover these improvements that are going to be discussed. Not really much more than this. Mike has a list of things that we need to do to make that a bona fide soccer park. And the fencing is a significant expense, and staff would recommend that we look at the things that you're agreeable with first. And then if we can get a foundation going, we see what happens with the sale of the property, and it can be expanded or shrunk a little bit as needed to do that. But that'll be the primary funding source for the goodies.
Good idea.
So you have 6 items there that really to get the soccer park up and running, goal sets, corner flags, a field striper of some sort, prefab storage unit to store items in, and then trash cans. Any extra items, porta potty specifically, if it's a big event, then that responsibility would be passed on to the event sponsors or the event organizers. But city services staff researched cost, and there's the range there for those particular items. Obviously, we may pick up a very small striper, but the big striper holds a capacity of paint versus just the aerosol cans. And those are the options there, $26,000 to $41,000. And the big costs, obviously, the goal sets. We want them to be portable, but we want them to be sturdier. So if there are funds that are made available, and depending on what that level of funding is, then we can look at what we can fulfill. There's a minor storage area at the city park now in that storage room, and not a whole lot of storage in the actual clubhouse. So depending on how it evolves and what equipment that we actually need to store, we might be able to delay that installation of that prefab storage.
And I just wanted to mention, in my experience, what I've seen, even currently when they play at the city park, is the coaches or the teams bring their own flags, their stripers, and all that. So it may be something that we may not even need because they're already used to that.
Right.
Can we burn the stripes into the grass?
Yes, absolutely. You can do that. And the recommendation from a referee, soccer referees, don't burn them because it creates, while we don't think of it, it creates tripping hazard because it's permanently gone. And so you have a slight depression. And a slight depression is all it takes to turn an ankle. So that's the recommendation. Do not burn that grass. And that's from a referee.
And I think that, we're better off, just painting them because sometimes depending on the age levels, we might want to make some modifications to the actual field. Yeah. So I'm learning.
So we need a motion for.
What's the motion for?
The
What's
motion
recommendation?
requested is for the fence, and then just identifying that every dollar we spend on the fence is coming from a separate city fund, park or recreation. And so those funds initially were not identified in those line items. And so every dollar we spend is something we didn't plan initially on spending.
So the recommendation is for 8-foot tall green standard fence, or are we talking? Is that what we talked about, or the vinyl? Just
I mean, I'd rather have the green, it's not a vinyl, it's painted, but
So
green.
it's the 8-foot tall standard fence green.
Green.
Just have to add the word green on it.
I
And
mean, that's my
awarded,
preference. I mean,
yeah, and then awarded dispense fence, or
We will
leave that to
confirm
you.
Spence can get the green, and there's no significant cost difference. If there is, we'll come back.
Okay, move for approval.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Item 13 is informational discussion of future of the Economic Development Corporation. Bill Ziegler.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I attended an EDC board meeting recently, and things have been coming to a head related to all the city's relationships with the EDC. The city of Lindsay, for the record, has been a staunch supporter of the EDC. We recognize that we are a small organization, and we don't have the depth on our bench to be able to do all the research that they do, to know what they know, and such as when we were doing the recruitment for the Tulare Frozen Food Site, when we had the Chinese dairy facility that was going to come in, the EDC was very good at talking about what tax credits were available and the different things that could be beneficial to them. That being said, from a city manager standpoint, the EDC hasn't provided many what we would call deliverables. Visalia and Tulare have taken the lead on that, primarily because they pay the lion's share of their budget. You know, Visalia was in the $160,000 range per year that they were paying, and they have their own very robust economic development department. And between their developer and working with the brokers, they were doing very well, and yet we're paying the lion's share of the dues to the EDC. So the conversations have been going on for over a year now about reducing the cost and potentially having some measurable component to, deliverables. One thing is to try to do something. The other part of it is to actually have achieved it. We recognize in economic development, you can't always have, this is what we got done. You have to show the different steps you're taking to make it better. So there were some concerns about how this was going, and then the city of Visalia created a draft memorandum of understanding that would just say that you would provide these very basic things, locate one new business in the course of a year. Manager Groom had said, set the bar any lower, you'd have to do nothing. And so we would just like there to see there be some measurable. And in doing this, they're saying, but their needs are different from other cities. And the dialogue has gone on quite a bit, and the concern, the frustration has been, the EDC says this is what we're going to deliver. They're not asking the cities for what they want. From a city manager standpoint, I'd love to see an Amazon distribution center come here, but folks, it ain't going to happen. We know it's not going to happen. We don't have the infrastructure for it. We're not going to be appealing to them. But how about a major retailer? We could use that. The EDC has not been recruiting major retailers. So we had this board meeting that occurred just about a week ago, and the consensus from that would be that we would hold a workshop on the 10th at 7:30 in the morning. It's a Friday, where we would come in, the different cities and the different organizations would come in and say, this is what we'd like to see. And the question is the EDC willing to do it or not? Are they willing? And I think they are willing to recruit for retail for us. I don't know if Visalia is going to be happy or not, but without Visalia, they don't really have a budget. And while the private sector could do this, and there are many private sector representatives on the board, they're not really paying much of anything right now. So it seems like an evolutionary process has been occurring for well over a year about, what have you done for me for what I'm paying? And when we look at what we have to pay for PERS and for unfunded liability, we just sent people home. Every nickel counts. This soccer field project, every nickel counts. And people can try really hard, but in the end, you should require of me some kind of result. And therefore, my question is, do we want to approach the EDC in that way to where we would expect some sort of deliverable from them? And you've got the list there of what we've been paying. 2016, 2017 was $7,500. This past year, they reduced it to a $5,000, $5,500 range, and rolling into this year, we got the credit for that. And so we really aren't spending anything in addition. We don't have a big cash outlay, and that's why I didn't talk to you about this prior to budget time frame. But come next year, when we have to review the budget, $7,500 or $5,000 is a lot of money. It's worth considering. So I'm looking for some direction from council on what you'd like to do.
And I'm on the board, and I don't see it the way Bill sees it. And in my opinion, Visalia's city council is trying to push something down the throats of the other members of the board and requiring, they put this exhibit out of a memorandum of understanding with Visalia and EDC. Visalia City Council is saying, this is what we want you to do, and we will sign an agreement with you if you guys do this. So it's like, okay, well, you guys, however you want to make your agreement is fine. But now they're coming back and they're saying, we changed our mind. We want all the cities to agree to this agreement that we made up. And
It actually doesn't say that.
yeah, it does. It does say that, and that's the way. That's the way I read it, and that's the way they're pushing it. As we have to, they want us to agree to this because they came up with it. To me, I told the EDC board that, if Visalia wants to get out, then let them get out. And I don't think they should hold us hostage for it. Now, in regards to deliverables that Bill's talking about, I've been on the board for 20 years, 15 years or something, and I've seen huge changes in the way they do business. The marketing that they do for us has changed dramatically over the years. And are we getting the people that we're supposed to? Yeah, well, maybe we're not, but we got people looking at it. We certainly have people looking at the old olive plant and different, but they're only looking at it because they can see it on the EDC's website, which has all our specific data. And so the demographics that they put on their website, I think, is worth what we've been paying them over the years. Do you want, who doesn't want a retail place or a manufacturer in their city? Everybody does. But, I think Visalia's been getting the majority of them. They say they're the ones that are doing it themselves, but I don't agree with them. I don't think Tulare County's doing it on their own, or Tulare, but they think that they're doing it and they're not getting anything out of EDC. But I don't agree with them. I think that getting out of this is a mistake for us as a city, because we can't afford to even do what they're doing. If we were to get out of this and get out of this board, then we're eliminating any marketing that we're doing. And we're not doing any marketing through our staff, right? Are you?
Actually, the things that come to fruition is usually between us and realtors and so forth. Yeah, we're accomplishing as much as they are.
They're getting it because they're walking in on us. They're not marketing it. We're not marketing to anybody.
No, we're not marketing.
We're not doing anything on marketing. This is basically our marketing fund. So, my stance, and I wasn't able to attend a meeting the last couple of times, and I emailed Paul and I told him that I'm totally against Visalia forcing us to agree on this. I'm not for that. I would vote no on it. And I don't think that us getting out of EDC is the smart choice for us.
So I feel different. I've been wanting to get out of the EDC for 10 years at least. I don't see anything that's come to fruition for us. Being on that board. For the amount of money that they make in that area, we're not getting anything.
Have you seen their website?
The website. I want to see tangible. I want to see what comes into our town.
Yeah, but they got to get it. That's the whole thing about marketing.
But if I would have seen in the 14 years, if I would have seen one business come into town, then I'd say, maybe sell. Or give them this year, tell them, hey, this is the year. You better bring us something.
And I think that's a frustration. Again, we're not seeing the business.
Maybe we should be alternating members on that board so we don't have the same person there. Because I'm seeing it, and you're
I mean, you're not
not.
seeing any.
I mean,
Just the marketing on the website, but what good is that if we're not having the businesses come into town? They're going to other cities. And I think that we're paying for a service, we should at least not only get the marketing, but see something here in town and say, okay, well, at least, I read on here like 4 visits to the city or something like that. I don't know if we have those types of visits through them here. I just saw it. So what are they doing other than keeping up on the website?
well, we could get Paul in here and he could share that.
I mean, he came and talked to us
Yeah,
that
he
day.
did do a presentation.
And
it
they
was
do
a nice
have hits on
presentation.
us, on Lindsay. So,
I mean, he actually did tell us what the contacts, how many contacts and stuff like that, but I'm still not seeing any bang for our buck.
So this year, we basically made 0 contribution.
No, we're in this
We're in
year.
it.
And I'm not even suggesting this year that we get out, but that's where the conversation is ultimately going to go. Are we in or are we out? My initial question, and I'll do whatever you guys want me to do, but my initial question is, I'll go to this meeting or Councilmember Velasquez if he's available, and we're going to have a discussion kind of like we're having here right now. What are city expectations of the EDC? Because the EDC's been telling us what they're going to provide as opposed to responding to our request. And in talking with Paul, they don't market for retail right now, but I believe he'll do it. He's indicated that he will. So I see us getting a win out of it. It's not going to cost us another nickel. We're in it this year, but I think that they're being put on notice that there's some deliverable expected somewhere in the county. And the divisiveness is just that from a manager standpoint, and many electeds actually, we're forced to deal with deliverables. Are they there or are they not? And you can be really good at it and have a great marketing, but if it's not achieving what we need it to achieve, we have other places potentially to spend our money, or at least we have to consider that. I'm not asking to pull out. Again, I value what they provide. A year from now, we may have a different conversation, but do you want me to request retail? Do you want me to sit back and take notes? How do you want to manage this?
I request anything that'll come in.
I think we need to
Yeah,
set some
absolutely.
expectations.
Yeah, retail is, I think, going to be, I'm not sure our demographics would justify any major retailer.
But that's not, I mean, let them come in and figure it out. I mean, we need to.
Yeah, and they do. It's easy enough for these guys to look at the demographics. But I will say this, and my little frustration with the EDC has been, is that they seem to take a shotgun approach where it would seem to me a marketing firm needs a rifle approach. They need to be at every city saying, what can we do specifically for you? And create a plan with that in mind. Maybe it's retail, maybe it's manufacturing, maybe it's a combination. Doesn't really matter, but I think that's where Paul's kind of missing the mark. The website is good, and his presentation was very nice. But I'm in marketing too, and I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, that's all good, Paul, but how does that benefit us? You need to create a plan for Lindsay, not Tulare County, because the county's got $1 billion budget, but
Well, not only that, but each city has its own needs,
Exactly.
and its own demographics too.
exactly.
well, you know what I'm hearing is way out of line with you three, and maybe possibly Pam, are thinking. So, I think I should withdraw myself from the board, and one of you 3 or 4 should get on the board and represent the majority, because I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't feel like I'm representing the majority, and maybe you guys should have somebody else in there. So I think I should withdraw from my as the representative, because I'm not going to go in there and do anything to withdraw from the EDC. I'm against that, but I'm a single voter. So if you guys, as a majority, decide something different, then you need to have somebody else represent you on that board. So as of now, I withdraw my representations. You guys will have to decide.
And with that, I will cover as the alternate until council makes a determination. We can bring it up at the next session when you're all here and figure out how we want to manage that.
But we do that, we're just
Just
put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
for-
reappoint somebody.
So is the desire to put an expectation that we would like them to perhaps speak with council and see what council's desires on? But right now, we're hearing that we would like to have some retail marketing done, it sounds like. Okay. I'll bring back what happens, but I think it'll be a well-attended meeting. I think there are a lot of very strong opinions out there about what the desires for the EDC are.
Okay. Item 14, we're tabling it, or?
14, yes, Chief Hughes has got the flu, and he sends his regrets, and he'll address it next council meeting with council's permission.
Item 15, future agenda items. Council members?
I have a couple things, and it'll maybe be kind of, and I don't know, maybe not, but to piggyback off fireworks. I don't know, just a discussion about maybe even just banning them altogether in the city. I don't know, just a discussion. So I'd like to do more research on that, and maybe if city can also get more research or more information on that. That's one thing. Another thing I'd like to maybe.
I'm sorry. You're talking about even like the safe and sane ones?
Again, just a discussion. And then with the soccer park, you know, are we gonna give it a name, or how are we gonna go about that? So I'd like to also discuss that. And then also in the budget that we looked at recently, one of the items on there was a carport back here, somewhere around here. So one of the things that I had mentioned was maybe looking at, you know, how the school district has like the solar panels that work like carports kind of. So I don't know if that's a possibility, or just even looking at that as well. So those are three things that I would like to, at some point in the near future, discuss.
Do you think we can get the EDC to sponsor the soccer park?
Somebody.
Okay. Make a motion to end the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.